is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
It says that she is a gaunt, black-haired glamour ghoul who comes out through ominous drifting mists. Well, now, this is obviously not true because I don't believe in that sort of stuff, you know. And it says that she has a pet spider named Rollo, and that can't be. And she hates, you know how people exaggerate. She hates the sunlight, and she's the ghostess with
For today's adventure, we are taking you to Hollywood Forever Cemetery right here in Hollywood, California, to visit the final resting place of actress Maila Nurmi, otherwise known as Vampira. Right now it's really early in the morning. The sun is pretty intense and shining brightly. It is so intense that in order to film this, we kind of have to hide from the sun, which in my opinion is absolutely perfect. Found a very creepy crypt to stand behind out of the sun, to talk to you, to tell you the tale of Vampira. But you know what? Instead of standing behind one stone and showing you one creepy crypt, as beautiful as it is, how about we just walk around the cemetery? I'll show you a few different things as I tell you the story of Vampira, hiding from the sun, well, for the most part, the entire time.
Young man, who are you?
What is this?
Won't you come in, Mr. Goble? We can have a nice little... Ow! Don't step on the cat's tail.
I don't see any cat.
Oh, we don't have a cat. Just his tail.
Obviously, Hitchcock is buried here. Not the Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is not buried here in Hollywood Forever Cemetery. In fact, I think Mr. Hitchcock, the king of suspense himself, has been cremated. You really can't visit his gravesite. This is the next closest thing, right? Before we go a little further, let's talk a little bit about the death of Maila Nurmi. She died at the age of 85 on January 10th, 2008 in her Hollywood apartment, a very small Hollywood apartment. We're going to visit that a little bit later on. Basically, what we're going to do today, we're going to visit her final resting place, the apartment where she lived and where she ultimately died, and we're going to go over to Santa Monica to a cemetery where she did a photo shoot in the late 50s. You've seen the pictures. You're going to know what I'm talking about when you see them. We're going to line up the shots as best as we can. Jessica and I were there the other day scoping it out, and we have a pretty darn good idea of where the photos were taken. Oh, and just a heads up, that giant building that you see, that's Paramount Studios. It borders Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Since we're here and telling the story of Vampira, I figured I would stop and say hi to a few different celebrities along the way. For instance, Johnny Ramone from, you guessed it, the Ramones. Now, when it comes to the story of Vampira and Maila Nurmi, I found it extremely interesting how Vampira came to be. I don't think many people realize this, but the lifespan, so to speak, of Vampira really is very short. Even though all these years later, Vampira is an icon of horror, especially if you are a fan of horror movies. Now, I'm probably going to get these dates wrong, so bear with me, but it's right around this area. You see, in the early 50s, Maila Nurmi attended a Halloween party dressed as Morticia, loosely based off of Charles Addams, you know, the creator of the Addams Family, one of his drawings. She won first place at this Halloween party. A couple weeks, maybe even months later, somebody from Hollywood tracked her down, called her up and said, "Hey, I really liked what you did back there for that Halloween party. You know, sexy, spooky, gothy looking witchy woman, and we'd like you to come in and read, so to speak, camera test for as a horror host, it turned out to be, for a TV show. So she came in dressed the way that she did, and they absolutely loved her. And the story goes, old Hollywood stories, they said that they directly wanted to steal Charles Adams' idea of a witchy woman. And she said, no, I respect that artist way too much. Let me go home, do something with this, change it up. I'll come back and I'll have something for you. So she left, and she came back, and it was Vampira.
Do you mind if I smoke?
No, not at all. Go right ahead.
Thank you.
And how you doing, Toto? Well, this is a statue in memory of Toto. He's not actually here. It's just in memory of Toto. Now back to the story. The show that Vampira hosted really didn't last that long. In fact, I think it only lasted 1 year, but she definitely left a heel print. Notice I didn't say footprint. Instead I said heel print, like a high heel print. She dated Marlon Brando, had a very romantic fling with him, and she had a very close friendship with actor James Dean. A lot of people think it was romantic. She says it wasn't, but her friendship, her relationship with James Dean, ultimately, I guess you would say, is what caused the fall of Vampira. It's no secret that Vampira and James Dean had a very close friendship, and a lot of people thought that it was a romantic relationship, but both James Dean and Vampira, Maila Nurmi, said that it wasn't that. In fact, at one point somebody asked James Dean flat out, hey, are you having a thing with this lady? And he jokingly said, I don't date witches. Jokingly, mind you. But rumor is, according to story, according to legend, according to lore, that Maila Nurmi took that very hurtful. She took it to heart, and it hurt her that her friend, her lover, so to speak, would have said this. Not too long after all this stuff, we all know what happened to James Dean. He died in a car crash north of Los Angeles on his way to Laguna Seca racetrack. And a lot of people think at the time that Vampira cursed James Dean. At the time, mind you. After all, she was a witch in a time where she was not like your typical average lady. And it didn't help that she sent him a postcard of her sitting next to an open grave saying, darling, come join me. A reporter got a hold of that, ran with it, and ultimately the Vampira cursed James Dean is what brought her down. They canceled her show, nobody wanted to work with her. At one point, she was living off of $13 a month. $13 a month. I have no idea what that is at that time. You know, it doesn't seem like a lot, does it? But she ended up finding work again with a guy by the name of Ed Wood in a movie called Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Sounds like Kay's in trouble.
Driving around Hollywood Forever Cemetery is proving rather interesting. Immediately, this name stuck out. Larry Drake. That, my friends, is Dr. Giggles. Well, he was also in Darkman, but I remember him distinctively from Dr. Giggles because he scared me when I saw the movie. An honorable actor and an honorable man. A curious mind, a wicked wit, and a kind heart. I'm not even gonna pretend to pronounce that. But how crazy cool is that? I had no idea that he's here, cremated. Because Elvira was so different, and she was hot, especially for the time, so many different people wanted to work with her, different movies and TV shows, and there's one director in particular. He wasn't even A-list, he wasn't even B-list, he wasn't even C-list, D-list, or any of the other alphabets. In fact, some wouldn't even put him on the alphabet list. A guy by the name of Edward D. Wood. I love his movies. I know you love his movies, especially if you're watching this, but at the time, his movies, the way he did things was considered a joke. I know we're here doing a visit and a video on Maila Nurmi, Vampira, but we're also visiting other notable celebrities right now. Jessica's looking for the new grave of Burt Reynolds. He's been buried here recently. And as she does that, let's continue talking about Mr. Ed Wood. Making these videos, a lot of times I feel like Jessica and I, in a lot of ways, are like Ed Wood. We set up a shot, we shoot it, and we keep moving on. Don't have a script. Everything we do is just, we kind of make it up as we go. It's all about just experiencing things. Now, when Ed Wood was alive, I read, and I always get the impression that he wanted to be famous so bad. But at the same time, he loved making movies. That was his heart's desire. Today, his most famous movie, Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I think is absolutely phenomenal, is considered as the worst movie ever made. And that really hurts because, like I said, I absolutely love it. Ed Wood wanted Maila Nurmi, Vampira's character, to be in his movie so bad that he hounded her for years to be in all kinds of projects. Like I said earlier, Maila Nurmi was living off of $13 a month. She was hurting for money. One day, she got a phone call that there was a script that somebody wanted her to read and that a part in a movie would be perfect for her. She got it, said Ed Wood, and she was like, oh, seriously? Come on. She took the part. I think she got paid somewhere around $200, which was an even huge deal back then, not now. We all know her. She's the, Vampira in the movie. There's that famous scene with her and wrestler Tor Johnson walking through the cemetery. Clip and pictures right now. Supposedly, she despised the idea of doing this movie so much that she refused to utter a single word of Ed Wood's dialogue in Plan 9 from Outer Space. Which is odd, because, I mean, it's a rumor, it's stories, it's Hollywood, because at the same exact time, I don't know if it's whether to save face or not, but recently, again, in doing research for this video, I saw an interview where she talked about this exact rumor, and she said,
I was initially offered some lines. I was initially offered some lines. But the fact is that the character, although I was billed as Vampira, the character wasn't Vampira as I had conceived her. Vampira as I had conceived her was giddy, outrageous, and this was a different kind of because she was in a trance, and I just thought it would be better if she were in a trance, and I asked her, please do it mutely, and they said, well, okay.
And a hello to you too, Mr. Chris Cornell from the band Soundgarden, 1964 to 2017, beloved husband and father. We had to do a little Grimm cemetery safari and trying to track down the new final resting place of actor Burt Reynolds. This is it. It is beautiful.
So they should be around for a while. That's awesome.
Talk about nice, right?
Yeah.
Jessica was just admiring the different flowers that are up there. They look real, but they are 100% fake.
Yeah, they're fabric. But I really like that because that means they'll be around for a long time, and it's very pretty.
And right below it is the stone for Burt Reynolds and a bottle of beer. Banquet. Coors Golden Banquet Beer. Now this is relatively new, probably within the past month or so. I remember when they put it out here, the stone for Burt Reynolds. Every YouTube content creator in Los Angeles at the time came out here, and there was just a flood of videos. I feel like we're walking up on Maila Nurmi's gravestone like two vampires. I mean, there's our shadows. Jessica, your bat coat is really something. Oh, spooky hands, spooky hands. It's been about a year, over a year, since we've been here visiting her. There's no kisses anymore on the stone. The rain has washed them away. It's been raining here in Hollywood for some time, it feels like. But there are some dried flowers to the left. You are so cute, Jessica. It is absolutely perfect. I think she would be happy. And as she flies away, let's get a closer look here. Oh, and look, there's little vampire teeth. Like the old Halloween vampire teeth. The sun is pretty wicked strong today, but there she is. Maila Nurmi, 1922 to 2008. Vampira. Hollywood legend. Pretty wild. Jessica's doing a little bit of cleaning up around her tombstone, and in the process she's finding all kinds of little trinkets and she's putting them right back where they belong. Is that a little skull, like a little blue skull I see up there?
Yeah, it's a bead. There's a bunch of little tiny spiders, but they won't stay on. I can't get them to stay. Come and put a bunch of little tiny plastic spiders, but they won't. Oh, there we go. They wouldn't stay the other way. Looks like it just, you know, it rained and it washed the spiders down.
Oh.
Oh, that was not intentional. I swear it wasn't.
Now here's a little bit of Grimm trivia for you about the burial of actress Maila Nurmi. You see, her body technically isn't here, but technically it is. You see, she was cremated, and during her service, her ashes were on display in a gold box, and they brought her ashes in the gold box over here via an old, very old looking hearse, like a classic hearse. And when they put her in the ground, they put the gold box in what looked like a white igloo cooler from pictures that I've seen online. I'm guessing that's pretty common when you're burying ashes, something like, you know, that's going to preserve the box. But I had no clue that she technically wasn't buried here, that it's her ashes here. Strange. Wild. Understandably so. And again, with the shadows. You know what, Jessica? If we were vampires standing here in the sun, we'd be up in flames. We would be ash right now. We would be dust, Jessica says. Poof.
Dust.
But it's nice seeing you again, Maila Nurmi. We are now your neighbors. And would you look at this? I just stumbled upon this. I had no idea that he was even buried here, but buried right behind Vampira is the actor Darren McGavin. Now that name doesn't mean anything. He was the actor who played Kolchak the Night Stalker in the TV series. Basically, he hunted vampires and other nightly creatures, and he's buried right behind Vampira. But to be honest, I wouldn't have known that he was over here, but I saw this piece of paper taped to the front here, and I looked at it and I was like, wait a second, that's Kolchak the Night Stalker. Wait, that's Darren McGavin. And I looked at it a little closer, and if I move this down, there's a picture of him right there. And right above it is his signature etched into the stone. That's cool. Let me show that one more time. Pretty awesome. A little secret of Hollywood. I had no clue. See? Learn something new every day. Because of the sun, you really can't make out his name. You kinda can. Crazy timing. Jessica and I were just leaving the cemetery. We were driving out of the cemetery whenever Anton Yelchin's mom passed us. everybody knows, if you're familiar with the family and his passing, that every day since he passed, either his mother or his father came to visit him at his, you know, final resting place, left a flower, cleaned up a little bit, or just sat and spent time with their son. We heard the stories. We've been here a couple different times, but today is the very first time that we saw her. We didn't say hi, just let her do her thing. You know, a couple weeks ago, we did a video on Anton Yelchin, where he lived, where he died, and here, the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. No doubt, I'm guessing the family saw our video. Hopefully they found it respectful. They didn't reach out to us, which is fine. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. But it's just, it's pretty wild to be living here and experiencing the stories. Does that make sense? I turned my back for 1 second, and Jessica is over here. She found a stray cat. You can see it up in the tree. There's Jessica. The cat is up there to the right of your screen. Oh, there's another one. They're both climbing the trees. You see that?
I was trying to share my beef jerky.
I don't think you can give cats beef jerky.
It's the same thing as a meat stick, honestly. I like eating my cat's ass. So, I saw a cat nestled into the wall. Oh, there's another one.
They're everywhere.
I've seen 4 today.
Cats and peacocks in Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Cats, peacocks, geese, swans, a smaller breed of duck that I can't remember the name of, but it's got giant feet. Lots of squirrels.
Koi fish.
Koi fish and turtles.
Swans.
Yeah.
Swans.
Swans. And I think that's all the animals I have seen thus far. But today was the only day I've seen cats. And I love animals, you know. I get sad when I see them homeless, especially something like cats, you know, because they're domesticated. So, I was trying to share my beef jerky.
Tracking down the final apartment and ultimately where Vampira died was a little difficult. Eventually we found the address on the coroner's report. What were you saying about this street here, walking here?
That there are giant ravens everywhere, but the strange thing is that they're all hanging out inside palm trees, and that's just 2 things I never thought would go together.
Another interesting thing about this location, well, where she lived, just the other day I was filming where Bela Lugosi lived and died. That's only a couple blocks away. So does creepy stay together?
Maybe.
Maybe. Staying true to Hollywood, Maila Nurmi lived in a little bungalow right here to the right of Jessica. You can hear the crows in the background.
Those are ravens.
Ravens, I'm sorry. But this is it. There's a sign that says the Hollywood Bungalow Courts, 1554 to 1576. Maila Nurmi's apartment, well, her bungalow was number 1570. Just peering over the gate, you can see 5 different bungalows. Hers was the 3rd one. It's a small little quaint little bungalow here in Hollywood, isn't it? Vampira died at the age of 85 from natural causes. Those who were close to her said that it came as a surprise because up until the time of her death, she was very energetic and she was giving interviews. Because she lived alone, it was a couple days before somebody found her. When they did find her, she was slightly decomposed, sitting on her couch with her feet propped up on a lawn chair. Her dead cat laid next to her as well. This place has everything. High above us, there are ravens cawing, and right here, in the center of your screen, is a spider web. How perfect is that? What do you think, Jessica, about living near where all this horror history that we've been unearthing is?
It's pretty neat. I mean, it's right in your own backyard, and if you didn't do the research, so you could go walking around your neighborhood and not know anything and just feel like you're in an average suburban-ish neighborhood. You know, it's Hollywood. That's what it means to be here.
It's pretty wild. You know, we often tell people always reach out to us saying, how did you find this out? How did you know that this was here? And I always tell them, you never know what's in your own backyard. Just look.
But also hours of research.
Yeah, we do a lot of research.
Yeah.
At some point during the 50s, Maila Nurmi came to Woodlawn Cemetery here in Santa Monica with a photographer and created some of the most well-known Vampira photos that we all know. We've seen them all over social media. Today, we're going to try to line up the shots as best as we possibly can. The hardest part about doing any of this is finding the right spot. A lot of times, whenever somebody does a photo shoot, they pick one area, and from what we've experienced in the past and doing research, they always stick to that one area. They find that look and that feel. We were here yesterday, truth be told, and we came out here and we lined up the shots as best as we possibly could. We found all the tombstones, so this is going to be rather interesting. But this is the cemetery, the part of the cemetery back in the 50s when Maila Nurmi was here with the photographer and created those iconic Vampira horror photos. Probably the most famous photo of that photo shoot is when she took a photo right in front of this stone that says Father on it. She's leaning up against it, laughing. She has her hand up like she's playing with her hair. And you can see the flower, what do you call that, filigree in the photo just above her shoulders. As close as we're gonna get, there's Jessica looking beautiful in the same exact location that Vampira was.
She was making like a squish nose laugh. So you can't see my face, sorry, you know, mask, but
there you go.
here's my squish nose.
The next photograph that we're going to line up is inside this crypt. There's a gate now, so we can't get to the exact location that Maila Nurmi was, but we can show it with the camera. It's inside this crypt behind this what do you call it, wrought iron fence.
Yeah.
What'd you see over here, Jessica?
That just right in the bottom, it says wife as a placard.
Oh yeah, look at that.
No other markings that I can see. But she was so far in, you couldn't see that placard.
No. The way that they had it, so right here is the location of this photo. Vampira was kneeling in the back of this crypt with her head down. You see that tree in the center of your screen? When we were here yesterday lining up shots, everything lined up except for a tree that was no longer here. While we were in the cemetery, a city worker came by and we asked them about this tree, and he said that about 2 months ago, the tree that once stood here was taken away, and then they planted this one, which I think is absolutely perfect because it kind of reminds me of something out of the Addams Family. But right where that tree is standing now, Vampira kind of entwined in the tree that used to stand there for a photo. And I'm going to show you how we lined up the shot. Because the tree is no longer here, there's absolutely no way of lining up this shot. But right where Jessica is standing, in her best bat getup, you could be Vampira. If we had a horror show, or if we had the opportunity to do a horror show, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I would try my best.
But right where Jessica is, and if I tilt the camera off to the left here, get a little creative, you'll see this tombstone. If we get closer to it, it says Arnold. That can be seen in the photo. And if I tilt this way and look over to the right, just behind Jessica, you'll see another stone. This one right there. You see how it's round, cylinder shape? What do we call that one, Jessica?
Swiss roll.
The Swiss roll tombstone.
Like a cake. Swiss roll cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how we found this shot.
It is.
And here are the photos.
Yep.
keep in mind that these photos were taken roughly 65 years ago, and we're standing in the same exact spot. So of course things are gonna change. I'm surprised actually that the tree lasted this long. Just what, 2 months ago they tore it down, and they put this Charles Adams looking thing here. I think they unintentionally created a memorial or a monument to Vampira. I'll go with that. Here comes Jessica. Jessica, do your bat. You are absolutely gorgeous. You are spooky and perfect.
That's how bats sound. They make little chirps.
And what do bats eat?
Depends on the bat.
Well, okay, so what kind of bat are you? What kind of bat would you eat?
Well, my favorite bats are actually vegetarians. They eat fruit.
So fruit bats.
Fruit bats,
like
yeah.
Jerry Dandridge from Fright Night.
Like the flying fox.
Okay.
It's like the massive bat. Or the little baby guys. Oh, they're so cute. They like ropes and stuff. But vampire bats obviously drink blood, but they only drink bovine because they have to like attach to them for a long time.
This has become like an educational science show.
They're like a big version of a mosquito. They're basically the same thing.
This is cool.
Wherever I come, bad luck just comes my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.